What's up everyone, Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick, and I have an album review for you. So one that was definitely on my radar for the week of the 8th of April was the latest offering from Teutonic Thrashers, Destruction, with their new album, Diabolical. This again comes on the 8th of April on Napalm Records. This is their 17th studio release. I believe that counts some like covers albums too, but they have a lot of releases. They've been around for a while, and they are part of the Teutonic Four in terms of thrash metal with Creator, Sodom, and Tankard, and I've, again, been a fan of these guys for a while. And hearing the tracks that have come out from this, I've been pretty excited about this one. And it isn't as though I wasn't excited about previous releases. I still get Destruction albums when they come out, and they're generally really good, but something about this one sounded, I don't know, a little bit more energetic, and there might be a reason to it. Pretty much the only returning member and only familiar face in this band at this point is Schmier. He's been in there for fucking forever. Like, he left for a couple of albums, I believe, or at least one album, and he's been pretty much the face of the band for a while. But gone now is Michael Siffringer. He left in 2021. I guess there was some issues in terms of like communication, and Schmier decided he was going to continue on without him and recruit some new guitar players, and well, here we are at Diabolical, and I don't know, part of me thinks it might have been the right move. I mean, if Michael really wasn't into doing Destruction anymore, he wanted to get some fresh blood that was wanting to write some killer thrash metal, and he definitely did, because honestly, this sounds reinvigorated as hell. Like, this is probably one of the most intense Destruction albums I've heard in years. After you get past the intro track, Under the Spell, which is an intro track, it's, there to set up the first song, which doesn't really need it, because the first song just whoops ass. It's the title track, and actually the track after it, No Faith in Humanity, both are pretty much like a 1-2 punch of just intense thrash. And right away, like, you can just kind of feel that this is different. I think the riffs feel way more aggressive. There's sort of a kind of boiling it down to the elements that are the most important. Just the intense riffing, really solid lead work, and just snarling, biting aggression, and man, do they fucking have it here. This album is flat out packed with barn burners and just riff after riff of just solid old school and modern thrash. It kind of walks a line between the two. Like, there's definitely stuff that screams more modern thrash, like bands like Havoc or Warbringer, but there's still tons on here that just screams flat out German thrash, as well it should. Songs like State of Apathy and Ghosts from the Past definitely just take off. In fact, State of Apathy starts off with a fucking cool turnover, and then Schmier's token giant wail, and we are off to the machine gun chugs and triplet chugs and galloping drums and all the fucking fun things you love about thrash. And Ghosts from the Past pretty much just burns that fucking barn again, like even more to the ground, where they find a whole new barn to burn, because this whole album is kind of about the barn burners, because this album really loves to go fast. Songs like, again, No Faith in Humanity just fucking flies, but you also have like more D-beat driven songs that are kind of like a little bit punky. In fact, sometimes the choruses turn a little bit punky. The song Hope Dies Last has a very punk-oriented chorus, and it kind of goes well with the D-beat, sort of double-time beat that kind of goes through it, and again, these chuggy riffs that are everywhere. And I have to say, the new blood in the band with Damir Eskik, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, or Martin Furia, maybe closer on that one. These guys just kind of bring the fucking thunder in terms of the guitars, which honestly is a really big focus on here. The guitars are very forward in the mix, and I have to say, overall, there's a much more raw, sort of intense feel to this album overall. Like, it feels more snarly than it has. Like, I love, Born to Perish and a lot of their previous albums. I think they're really good, but there hasn't been an album of theirs that has really just jumped out like, oh fuck, I have to listen to that again, like, a lot. This one, there is something that draws me in right away, and that is just the flat out intensity and the fucking anger behind all these songs. The riffs are fucking so tight and so aggressive, and Schmier is kind of going all over the place on here. Like, sometimes it is a bit much. Sometimes there's some vocal passages like, well, why did you make that noise? And then other times, yeah, he's his usual kind of waily, snarly self, and I don't know, like, there's a lot of intensity to the vocals, and also a lot of filters, which can get a little old after a while. Like, there's some stuff where it's like, yeah, you didn't necessarily need to double it there or add like a weird phaser effect or anything like that. But what does add a lot to this are the backup vocals. They're kind of like demonic gang vocals, and I believe it's both guitarists in there just sort of just growling behind Smear's more snarl, which Smear does get a little bit lower on here too. Like he's kind of just showing off the wild range. Like of course you get the high-pitched wails, but yeah, he's just kind of going off, and I feel like this album, like nothing was left on the table. Like they just wanted to make the most intense album they possibly could. There's a sense of urgency to this, and honestly it kind of comes out in the tracking in here. No song takes that long to build up. It isn't much about building tension. It is about just exploding in front of your face like a fucking pipe bomb, and then, well, hopefully you survive to listen to the rest of the song. That being said, though, it isn't all barn burners. There's some groovy tracks in here to just kind of get your head banging. Tormented Soul has this really cool sort of doom-laden intro with these just kind of creepy, sullen harmonies into one of the most nasty, slower, chuggy riffs on the entire album. The song is a little bit more brooding, definitely one of the heaviest tracks on here, and it just has like a darker vibe to it. And I would say some of the riffs are kind of flirting with death metal a little bit in terms of the more sinister feel to them. And then The Lonely Wolf is this awesome, chuggy, sort of mid-tempo groove-a-thon. Like it's a little bit kind of Lamb of God-ish in spots, but it is driven by some absolutely massive triplet chugs. But my favorite part comes on the chorus, where it kind of just takes this fun little walk through like classic heavy metal. You get some more classic heavy metal sounding lead harmonies. The lead on it has this sort of like sleazy rock and roll vibe. A little bit of that Motorhead energy kind of carrying over, all while beating you over the head with some sick syncopated grooves. And they even close that fucking song with a gong. Why the fuck not? So even on these groovier tracks, there's still a lot of intensity. There's still a fuck ton of heaviness. And it doesn't take away from the entire vibe of the album, which is definitely a fast-paced, fucking face-ripping thrash album. The only downside I found to this album, honestly, was the song Repent Your Sins. And it isn't though it's a terrible song, it's just one that stands out as maybe not as well put together as the other ones. I think the main thing is it misses on the chorus hook. The chorus hook, you know, you have a lot of chorus hooks on here where they kind of go with a punkier approach, like a little bit more in the major chords in there, kind of pop it up, but it still sounds snarly and fucking pissed off. This one kind of, I don't know, it feels like they tried to go with like classic speed metal and maybe a mix of like power metal or heavy metal in there and try to make it a little bit more sing-songy, and I think Schmear just kind of misses it in terms of the big vocal hook that it's supposed to be generating, because the riff behind it is pretty catchy. It's just the vocal hook on top of it doesn't really work. It kind of feels like a half commit, like on either side. Like, you know, like, yeah, it's still heavy, but make it a little sing-songy. And it's like, well, you could have made it like hugely sing-songy, but you didn't commit to that. You could have just made it fucking heavier than hell, but you kind of found this little in-between area that was okay. But honestly, that was about my only complaint on this. I thought this was really kind of surprising. It isn't as though I think, you know, Destruction has been just, you know, putting out bad albums. They've just been putting out, you know, decent albums. Like, they're good, but they're not as memorable as they have been. This one, I think, will be memorable. And overall, I'm going to give this 4 stars. I really dug this. And I'm a little caught off guard just in terms of how intense it is and how hooky it is. Like, these songs really stand out from a lot of stuff they've done here recently, and I think part of it isn't due to the new blood in the band. The riff work is tight as hell, it's heavy as hell, there's good melodic hooks, but the main thing on it is it's just flat out intense, and it just keeps this level of energy up throughout the entire album. I think it's paced well, even though most of the album is like fiercely fast as hell. They break it up well with like just faster thrashy tracks to DB tracks, so you still get that speed, but it's different kinds of speed. And there's some groovy tracks there to break it up too, and man, you're going to find a catchy riff on every single song. I recommend this one, especially if you're a Destruction fan like me, where you think the, you know, last handful of albums have been good, but just not that memorable. This one really stands out. Like, I am definitely going to go back to jamming this one, but of course I have other shit to review, but I am going to go back to jamming this one here soon because this was a lot of fun to listen to. And if you are new to Destruction, this would not be a bad place to start too. This is an absolutely dick-kicking album. And I think if you love thrash in general, you're going to find a lot of shit you like on this. So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon if you'd like to help us out there. There will be a link down below, as well as a link to thrallsmetal.com, where you can order a shirt if you would like. Again, Thank you to everyone that has subscribed and followed us. This, again, has been a boatload of fun. I'm looking forward to doing more reviews when I get back from vacation, but this weekend will probably be the last batch of reviews before I leave, and then when I get back, probably getting right down to a whole bunch of crazy shit, because I'm going to go do some shopping in Florida, and I'm going to probably find a whole bunch of shit, and ooh, yeah, I'm dangerous in a fucking record store. I think most of you guys probably know that already. So once again, I thank you all for watching, and we will catch you later.